Daewon Kim wiped the sweat from his forehead and adjusted his toolkit. The observation deck of Cascadia Station always ran hot during the day cycle, something about the environmental controls that he had been meaning to fix for weeks. He knelt beside an access panel, running diagnostics on the temperature regulation system, while Jupiter's massive storm swirled in the viewport behind him. He had been working on the station for 3 years now, ever since Earth joined the galactic community. It still felt strange sometimes, knowing that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Strange, but also slightly disappointing. Daewon had imagined first contact would be more exciting. Instead, it turned out most aliens were just as boring as humans, worried about the same things: politics, trade agreements, and making sure their environmental systems worked properly. The door to the observation deck hissed open. Daewon glanced up briefly, expecting to see another human crew member. He froze. An alien woman stood in the doorway. She was tall, easily 7 feet, with skin that seemed to glow from within. Her skin shifted colors as she moved, flowing from deep violet to bright silver like oil on water. She wore simple robes that looked like they were made from liquid metal. Her eyes were large and completely black, no visible pupils or whites. She moved with a grace that made Daewon think of dancers or predators. He had seen pictures of different alien species during his training, but seeing one in person was completely different. She was beautiful in a way that made his chest tight. Not human beautiful, but something else entirely. Something that made him think of distant stars and deep oceans. Without thinking, Daewon whispered in Korean, barely audible even to himself. Beautiful. Like starlight caught in glass, the alien woman turned immediately. Her head swiveled toward him with perfect precision. When she spoke, it was in flawless Korean, her voice like wind chimes. I heard. Your language is quite poetic. Daewon felt his face burn hot. He scrambled to his feet, nearly dropping his tools. You speak Korean? I speak many languages, she said, stepping closer. My species has excellent language processing capabilities. But more relevantly, we have exceptional hearing. I heard your whisper from across the room. I'm so sorry, Daewon stammered. That was incredibly inappropriate. I didn't mean to. Why do you apologize? She tilted her head, studying him with those dark eyes. Your observation was not insulting. If anything, it was complimentary. Yet your heart rate has increased significantly, and your skin temperature has risen. You are experiencing what humans call embarrassment, yes? Daewon wanted the floor to open up and swallow him. Yes, very much yes. Fascinating. She moved closer, and Daewon realized she towered over him. I am Kalira of the Verith. I am here as part of the diplomatic delegation studying human integration into galactic society. Daewon Kim, he managed. I'm just a maintenance engineer. I fix things when they break. Just an engineer, Kalira repeated. Humans often diminish themselves this way. Another interesting behavioral pattern. She looked around the observation deck, then back at him. May I ask you something, Daewon Kim? Sure, I guess. Why do you feel embarrassed? You expressed appreciation for something you found aesthetically pleasing. This is a normal response, yet you react as if you committed a social violation. Daewon rubbed the back of his neck. Because, I don't know. It's personal, I guess. And you're a person, not just something to look at. It feels disrespectful to comment on someone's appearance without their permission. Kalira was quiet for a moment. Your species has such complex social rules about observation and expression. The Verith do not share these taboos. She paused, but I appreciate the consideration behind your discomfort. It speaks to a certain awareness of others. Is there something I can help you with? Daewon asked, desperate to change the subject. Is your quarters having environmental issues? No, I came here for the view. Jupiter is beautiful. Your system's gas giants remind me of home. She turned to look out the viewport. Though I admit I am also interested in observing human behavior in natural settings. Are we that strange? Strange? Kalira seemed to consider the word. No, surprising perhaps. Your species is quite young compared to most in the galactic community. Most species at your technological level are much more uniform. Humanity retains incredible diversity. In behavior, in emotion, in cultural expression, Daewon found himself relaxing slightly. Is that good or bad? Neither. Simply notable. She was quiet for a moment, watching Jupiter's storms. May I ask you another question? A personal one. I guess that's fair since I accidentally said something personal to you. Have you experienced significant loss in your life? The question caught Daewon off guard. His mind immediately went to his brother. Taemin had died 5 years ago in a colony accident, crushed when a pressure seal failed. Daewon had been the one to identify the body. Yes, he said quietly. My brother died 5 years ago. And yet you continue, Kalira observed. You work. You make jokes about embarrassment. You find beauty in things. How? What else would I do? That, Kalira said, is the question my people have been asking about humans for months now. Daewon frowned. I don't understand. Kalira turned to face him fully. The Varath have existed for over 50,000 years. We have studied thousands of species. And humanity possesses something we find deeply puzzling. You endure. Everyone endures. No, Kalira said softly. Not everyone. Not the way humans do. She seemed to struggle with her next words. There is a crisis in the galactic community, something we do not fully understand, and preliminary research suggests that humans may be uniquely equipped to help us comprehend it. What kind of crisis? Kalira looked at him for a long moment. I cannot discuss it openly. Diplomatic protocols, but she hesitated. Would you be willing to meet with me again? Unofficially? I would like to understand more about how humans process psychological stress and emotional trauma. You want to study me? I want to talk with you, Kalira corrected. If you are willing. No obligation, no official capacity, simply conversation. Daewon should have said no. He should have made an excuse and gone back to his work. Getting involved with aliens in diplomatic situations was not in his job description. But there was something in the way Kalira asked. Something that sounded almost like hope. Okay, he heard himself say. I can do that, thank you. Kalira's skin shifted to a warmer gold color. Perhaps tomorrow? Same time? Sure. I'll be here fixing these temperature controls anyway. Kalira nodded and moved toward the door. She paused at the threshold and looked back. Daewon Kim? Your whisper was kind. Among my people, we would say your words carry good spirit. You should not feel ashamed of seeing beauty and speaking it aloud. Then she was gone, and Daewon was alone with Jupiter and his racing thoughts. He had no idea what he had just agreed to. But somehow, despite the embarrassment and confusion, he found himself looking forward to tomorrow. He picked up his tools and went back to work, trying not to think about the fact that his quiet life on Cascadia Station had just become significantly more complicated. Daewon met with Kalira 3 more times over the next 2 weeks. They talked in the observation deck, in the station's botanical garden, and once in the commissary where Kalira tried human coffee and declared it aggressively bitter but interesting. Their conversations ranged from simple things like favorite colors to deeper topics about memory, loss and hope. On the 4th meeting, Hana Cho cornered him in the maintenance bay. She was his supervisor and had been his friend since they both arrived at Cascadia Station. She did not look happy. What are you doing with the Varath delegate? Hana demanded, arms crossed. Talking, Daewon said. Just talking. Nobody just talks with diplomatic representatives from advanced alien civilizations, Hana said. What does she want from you? Daewon set down the circuit board he had been repairing. She's asking questions about how humans deal with difficult emotions. Grief, stress, that kind of thing. And that doesn't concern you? They're studying us like we're lab animals, Daewon. It's not like that, he protested. She's genuinely curious. And honestly, it's nice to talk to someone who actually listens. Hana's expression softened slightly. I know you've been lonely since Taemin died. But be careful. These aliens have been around for thousands of years. We don't know what they really want. Before Daewon could respond, his comm device beeped. It was a message from Kalira asking to meet immediately. Something in the wording made him hurry. He found her in the observation deck again, but this time she was not alone. Another Varath stood with her, taller and with darker coloring. Kalira's skin was shifting rapidly between colors, which Daewon had learned meant she was agitated. Daewon, she said when she saw him, thank you for coming quickly. This is Elder Velrim. He has given me permission to share certain information with you. The Elder Varath studied Daewon with those dark eyes. Kalira believes you can be trusted. I hope her judgment is correct. Trusted with what? Daewon asked. Kalira took a breath. What I am about to tell you is not public knowledge. Most species in the galactic community are aware, but we have kept it from Earth until now. Your government knows, but your general population does not. You're scaring me. Good. Elder Velram said. You should be scared. We are. Kalira activated a holographic display. It showed a star map with dozens of systems marked in red. 6 months ago, we noticed something unusual happening across multiple species. Individuals were becoming inactive. Not dead, not sick, but simply unresponsive. We call it the silent plague, like a coma. Day one asked. No, they remain conscious. Their eyes are open, they breathe, they can be fed. But they will not speak, will not move, will not respond to any stimulus. They simply sit or lie down and do nothing, forever. The hologram changed to show statistics. It started small, a few individuals on different worlds. We thought it was coincidence, but it has been spreading. Entire colonies have gone silent. Millions of beings across dozens of species have simply stopped. Day one felt a chill run down his spine. What causes it? We do not know, Elder Velram said. It is not biological, not a virus or bacteria or parasite. Medical scans show nothing wrong physically. It appears to be purely psychological. But we have discovered something interesting, Kalira added. Humans do not seem to be affected. Every single case has been among non-human species. Earth has been part of the galactic community for 3 years, and not one human has succumbed to the silent plague. Maybe we just haven't been exposed to whatever causes it, Daewon suggested. We considered that, Kalira said, but we have had humans living on affected worlds, working closely with afflicted individuals. Nothing. Your species appears to be immune. Why? That is what we are trying to understand. Kalira changed the hologram to show brain scans. The afflicted lose something we call the will to continue. It is as if they reach a point where continuing to exist simply seems pointless. They do not become sad or depressed in the way humans understand those terms. They simply stop seeing any reason to go on. Day one thought about this, but that's just giving up. Everyone feels like that sometimes, don't they? Yes, Kalira said. But most species, when they feel that way, eventually succumb to it. Humans are different. You feel that way and keep going anyway. I don't understand, Elder Velram spoke again. Tell me, Daewon Kim, when your brother died, did you consider simply ceasing all activity? Lying down and never rising again? The question was harsh, but Daewon answered honestly. Sometimes. In the first few weeks, there were days I didn't want to get out of bed. Days where everything seemed pointless. And yet you did get out of bed? Well, yeah. I had to. My job, my responsibilities. And eventually I found reasons to keep going. Small things at first. A good meal, a fixed machine, a funny message from a friend. Exactly, Kalira said. You created reasons to continue even when continuation seemed pointless. This is what we find so remarkable about humanity. Your species has an irrational persistence. You keep fighting, keep hoping, keep finding meaning even when logic suggests there is none to find. Is that really so special? Yes, both Vareth said simultaneously. Kalira continued. My people have optimized ourselves for logic and efficiency over thousands of years. We are long-lived, highly intelligent, and we have eliminated most sources of suffering from our society, but we have also eliminated much of what you would call passion, or drive, or irrational hope. Other species are similar, Elder Velram added. The more advanced a civilization becomes, the more it tends toward logic and order. And apparently that makes us vulnerable to this plague. But humans are still young, Kalira said. Still chaotic. Still full of those messy, irrational emotions that drive you forward even when it makes no sense. And somehow that protects you. Daewon sat down heavily on a nearby bench. So what do you want from us, from me? We need to understand how human psychology works, Kalira said. How you maintain your will to continue. Because if we cannot learn this, the silent plague will eventually destroy every advanced species in the galaxy, including mine. Have any Vareth been affected? Kalira's skin shifted to a dark blue. Yes, 3 confirmed cases on our homeworld, including... She paused. Including my partner. I'm sorry, Daewon said quietly. Which is another human trait we find fascinating, Elder Velram observed. You express sympathy for beings you barely know. You form emotional connections quickly and deeply. Is that wrong? No, Kalira said. It may be exactly what we need to learn. An alarm suddenly blared through the station. Emergency lights began flashing. Daewon's comm device erupted with messages. He checked the screen and felt his stomach drop. What is it? Kalira asked. One of your delegation, Daewon said. A Vareth diplomat named Melkor. He's been found in his quarters, completely unresponsive. Medical team thinks it's the silent plague. Kalira's skin turned almost white. Here, on this station? Yes, Day One said, already moving toward the door. They're taking him to the medical bay now. We must go, Elder Velram said. Immediately. They rushed through the corridors of Cascadia Station. Crew members were panicking, shouting questions, spreading rumors. Day One could hear fear in their voices. The silent plague had seemed distant before, something happening far away. Now it was here on their station. When they reached the medical bay, they found Melkor sitting upright on a medical bed, eyes open, breathing normally. But there was no one home behind those eyes. He stared straight ahead at nothing, completely still except for the slow rise and fall of his chest. The human doctor looked helpless. There's nothing physically wrong with him, but he won't respond to anything. Kalira approached Melkor slowly. He was fine this morning. We spoke at breakfast. He was cheerful, talking about his family on our home world. Her voice broke slightly. How does it happen so quickly? Sometimes it is instant, Elder Velram said quietly. One moment they are fully present, the next they are gone. We do not know what triggers it. Day One watched the scene, watched Kalira's obvious distress, watched the human medical staff scrambling to help with tools and knowledge that were clearly useless here. He thought about his conversations with Kalira, about human persistence and irrational hope. Can I try something? He heard himself ask. Everyone turned to look at him. Try what? The doctor asked, just talking to him. Like he's a person who's given up, not a patient with a disease. It's what we do with humans sometimes when they're in dark places. Kalira looked at Elder Velram. Something passed between them, some silent communication. Then the elder nodded. You may try, Kalira said. At this point, we have nothing to lose. Day One pulled a chair close to Melkor's bed and sat down. The Vareth diplomat remained motionless, staring at nothing. Day One had no idea what he was doing. He was not a doctor or a therapist. He was just an engineer who fixed broken things. But maybe that was enough. Hi, Melkor, he started. My name is Day One. We haven't met before, but I've been talking with Kalira. She's here, by the way. She's worried about you, no response. Not even a flicker of recognition. I don't know if you can hear me, Day One continued. But I'm going to talk anyway. That's kind of what humans do. We talk even when we're not sure anyone is listening. We talk to pets, to plants, to ourselves. It's one of our stranger habits. He glanced at Kalira, who nodded encouragingly. The medical bay had gone quiet. Everyone was watching. I'm not going to tell you that everything is fine, Day One said. I'm not going to try to convince you that life is beautiful and meaningful and worth living. Honestly, I'm not always convinced of that myself. Some days are just hard. Some days you wake up and think, why bother? Hana had entered the medical bay. She stood in the doorway watching with concern. My brother died 5 years ago, Day One said. His name was Taman. He was funny, smarter than me. And he had this terrible habit of making puns at the worst possible moments. He died in a colony accident. Pressure seal failure. They said it was quick, that he didn't suffer. I don't know if that's true or if they just said it to make me feel better. Melkor's fingers twitched slightly. Day One noticed but kept talking. For weeks after he died, I didn't want to do anything. Getting out of bed felt impossible. Eating felt pointless. Working felt meaningless. I kept thinking, what's the point? Taman was a good person and he still died in a random accident. Nothing I do matters. Nothing anyone does matters. Day One, Hana said softly, concern in her voice. It's okay, Day One said. I'm okay, but I'm trying to be honest here. He turned back to Melkor. So I understand the feeling. I really do. That sense that continuing is just too exhausting. That there's no good reason to keep going. I get it. He leaned back in his chair, thinking about what to say next. But here's the thing. I got out of bed anyway. Not because I found some grand meaning or purpose. Not because I had some revelation about the beauty of existence. I got up because I had to fix a water recycler that was broken. Someone needed it fixed and I knew how to fix it. Day One laughed quietly. Stupid, right? I kept living because of a broken water recycler. But that's how it started. One small task. Then another. Then someone made me laugh. Then I tasted good food. Then I saw Jupiter's storms from the observation deck and thought they were beautiful. Melkor's head moved slightly, tilting toward Day One's voice. I didn't find one big reason to keep going, Day One said. I found 1,000 small reasons. And some days I still don't have a reason. Some days I'm just going through the motions. But I do it anyway. That's what humans are good at, apparently, just stubbornly continuing even when it doesn't make sense. He reached out and carefully placed his hand near Melkor's. Not touching, just close. I don't know what you're experiencing right now. I don't know what made you stop. But I want you to know that it's okay to feel like everything is meaningless. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to not have answers. Daewon's voice grew softer, but I hope you'll keep going anyway. Because Kalira is here and she needs you. Because your family on your homeworld is waiting. Because tomorrow the station will serve those weird blue pastries in the commissary. And I think you should try one. Silence filled the medical bay. Seconds stretched into minutes. Daewon kept talking, sharing random stories. He told Melkor about the time he accidentally locked himself in an airlock during training. About his worst first date. About the strange beauty of watching Jupiter at 3 in the morning when he could not sleep. He talked until his voice was hoarse. Hours passed. The medical staff changed shifts. Hana brought him water. Kalira never left, standing quietly in the corner, her skin shifting through worried colors. Daewon was running out of things to say. He was exhausted and his throat hurt. He decided to try one more thing. I don't know if existence has meaning, he said quietly. Probably it doesn't. Probably we're all just accidents in a universe that doesn't care about us. But here's what I do know. Right now, in this moment, me sitting here trying to reach you means something to me. Maybe that's enough. Maybe all we have is the meaning we create ourselves, the connections we make, the small choices to keep going even when we don't know why. Melkor's hand moved. It was subtle, but it definitely moved. His fingers stretched out slowly as if testing whether they still worked. Melkor? Kalira stepped forward quickly. The Varath diplomat's eyes focused. He blinked. Then he turned his head to look at Daewon. When he spoke, his voice was rough and weak, but it was there. You carry such chaos inside, Melkor said. How do you bear it? Daewon felt tears prick his eyes. We just do. One day at a time, the medical bay erupted in activity. Doctors rushed forward. Kalira was suddenly at Melkor's side, speaking rapidly in her own language. Elder Velrim appeared from somewhere, his skin bright with obvious relief. Hana pulled Daewon aside while the medical team examined Melkor. What you did, she said. That was incredible. I just talked, Daewon said. I don't even know if it worked or if he was going to come back anyway. No, Kalira said, approaching them. Her skin was shifting through bright golds and silvers. It worked. What you said, how you said it reached him, he told me. He said he was drowning in silence, in the absolute certainty that nothing mattered. And then he heard your voice, saying that it was acceptable to feel that way, that it was acceptable to not have answers but continue anyway. Why did that help? Daewon asked. Because we, Varath, we seek certainty, Kalira explained. We seek logical reasons for everything. When we cannot find a logical reason to continue, we cannot continue. But you gave him permission to exist without certainty, to persist without logic. That is not something we know how to do. Elder Velrim joined them. This is remarkable. If human presence, human philosophy can pull afflicted individuals back from the silence, then we may have found a treatment. But we can't just talk to billions of people individually, Hana pointed out. Even if every human helped, the math doesn't work. No, Elder Velrim agreed. But we can learn. We can study what makes human psychology resilient. We can try to understand how you create meaning from chaos, how you persist through pain, how you hope without justification. Over the next few days, Melkor slowly recovered. He talked with Daewon several more times, asking questions about human emotions, human philosophy, human ways of coping with meaninglessness. Other Varath delegates began asking similar questions. Word spread through the station about what had happened. Kalira took long walks with Daewon through the station's corridors, discussing the differences between their species. She explained that the Varath had spent thousands of years optimizing themselves. They had eliminated disease, poverty, conflict. They had created perfect societies where everyone had everything they needed. But in doing so, she said one evening as they watched Jupiter together, we may have eliminated the very struggles that give life purpose. Without challenge, without pain, without the need to fight for survival or meaning, consciousness itself loses its anchor. Are you saying suffering is necessary? Daewon asked. Not suffering exactly, Kalira said thoughtfully, but perhaps incompleteness. The need to strive, to overcome, to create meaning because none is provided. Your species never achieved the perfection we did. Earth still has problems, and perhaps those problems keep you engaged with existence. That's a depressing thought, is it? Kalira's skin shifted to a thoughtful blue. Or is it liberating? Perhaps meaning is not something to be found, but something to be made, and perhaps making meaning requires a certain amount of chaos. Day One's comm device buzzed. It was an urgent message from Elder Velrim requesting both of them immediately. When they arrived at the conference room, they found the Elder with several other Vareth officials. They all looked grave. "We have received news from our homeworld," Elder Velrim said. "The silent plague has accelerated. Over 200,000 Vareth have fallen silent in the last week alone." Kalira made a sound of distress. "My family?" "Your family compound has been affected," Elder Velrim said gently. 12 individuals have fallen silent, including your younger sibling, Venya. Kalira's skin went almost white. She swayed slightly and Day One instinctively reached out to steady her. "We must return home immediately," she said. "The council has approved a research expedition," Elder Velrim said. "We would like to bring human specialists to our homeworld to see if what worked here can work on a larger scale. Day One Kim, would you be willing to come?" Day One looked at Kalira, at her obvious distress and fear. He thought about Melkor, about that moment when empty eyes had suddenly focused again. He thought about his brother, about all the small reasons he had found to keep going. "Yes," he said, "I'll come." The journey to Vareth Prime took 8 days through faster-than-light travel. Day One spent most of that time with the human team that had been assembled. Besides him, there was Junho Park, a psychologist from Seoul who specialized in trauma recovery. There was also Nari Song, a cultural liaison who had studied alien societies for years. Hana had insisted on coming too, saying that someone needed to keep them all grounded. The ship was beautiful, far more advanced than anything humans had built. Everything was smooth and organic looking, like being inside a living creature. Kalira spent most of the journey in her quarters. Day One tried to talk to her a few times, but she was distant, lost in worry about her family. On the 7th day, Junho found Day One in the observation room. "Can I ask you something?" The psychologist said, "Sure." "What you did with Melkor, that was not any technique I know. Where did you learn that?" Day One shrugged. "I didn't. I just talked to him like he was my friend who was going through something hard." "That's what you do, right?" "Most people don't," Junho said. "Most people try to fix things or give advice or tell people everything will be okay. You just sat with him in the darkness and said it was acceptable to be there. I guess I remembered what I needed when Taman died. Someone who didn't try to make it better. Someone who just acknowledged that it was terrible and I was allowed to feel terrible." Junho nodded slowly. "The Vareth have been trying to fix the silent plague like it's a problem to be solved. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's something they need to learn to live with." When they finally arrived at Vareth Prime, Day One pressed his face against the viewport like a child. The planet was stunning. Crystalline cities rose from the surface like growing things, catching sunlight and scattering it into rainbows. Vast forests of bioluminescent plants glowed in the darkness. Oceans shimmered with colors he had no names for. But as they descended, Day One noticed something wrong. The cities were too quiet. Streets that should have been full of activity were empty. In many places, he could see Vareth simply sitting or standing motionless, fallen to the silent plague. They landed near Kalira's family compound. It was a beautiful structure that looked like it had been grown rather than built. All curves and natural shapes. Kalira led them inside with obvious dread. Her family was in the central chamber. 12 Vareth sat in perfect silence. Their eyes were open, their bodies healthy, but no one was home. They had arranged themselves in a circle as if they had been talking and then simply stopped. Kalira went to one of them, a smaller Vareth with skin that glowed soft green. "Venya," she whispered. "My little sibling." She touched Venya's face gently. There was no response. Day One felt his chest tighten. He had seen Melkor in the grip of the silent plague, but seeing 12 people, an entire family, was different. It was worse. "How long have they been like this?" Nari asked quietly. 6 days, Kalira said. They all fell silent within hours of each other. Junho was examining the scene carefully. "Did anything happen before this? Any event or stress?" "No. That is what makes this plague so terrifying. There are no triggers, no warnings. One moment they are fine, the next they are gone. Hana knelt near one of the afflicted Verath. Day one you brought Melkor back. Can you do it again? I don't know, he said honestly. I don't know if what I did really worked or if I just got lucky. We have to try, Kalira said. Her skin was shifting rapidly through dark colors. Please. Over the next 3 days, they tried everything. Daewon talked to each of the afflicted family members, sharing stories, expressing emotions, trying to reach them the way he had reached Melkor. Juno used various therapeutic techniques. Nari tried cultural approaches, drawing on human traditions of storytelling and connection. Nothing worked. The family remained silent. On the 4th day, Daewon found Kalira sitting alone in a garden outside the compound. The plants around her glowed softly in the evening light. She looked exhausted. I'm sorry, he said, sitting beside her. I thought I could help. You are helping, Kalira said. Just by being here. Just by trying. It's not enough. No, she agreed. It is not. They sat in silence for a while. Finally, Kalira spoke again. We did this to ourselves, you know, my people. We spent thousands of years perfecting our society. We eliminated suffering, conflict, need. We made ourselves logical and efficient. And in doing so, we eliminated the very things that made life worth living. What do you mean? Humans suffer, Kalira said. You experience pain, loss, fear, anger. Terrible emotions. But those emotions connect you to each other. You bond through shared struggle. You grow through overcoming challenges. You create deep relationships because you know you might lose them. She gestured to her family, sitting silent inside the compound. We have no suffering. We have perfect health, unlimited resources, complete safety, but we also have no depth, no real connection. We optimized away the need for true intimacy, for vulnerable relationships, for the messy, painful bonds that humans form. You love your family, Daewon said. I can see it. Yes, but it is different from human love, calmer, less intense, less necessary. Her skin darkened. We do not need each other the way you need each other. And perhaps that is why the silent plague affects us. Without that need, without that desperate connection, what reason is there to continue? Daewon thought about his brother again, about the pain of losing him, about how that pain, as terrible as it was, came from how much he had loved Taemin, about how he would not trade that love away even if it meant avoiding the pain. I have a thought, he said slowly. Maybe it's stupid. Tell me. You said the Verath eliminated conflict and suffering. But what if the plague isn't caused by perfection itself? What if it's caused by isolation within that perfection? Kalira tilted her head. Explain. Humans are messy and complicated. We hurt each other sometimes. We fight, we disagree, we make mistakes. But all of that, it keeps us connected. We have to work through problems together. We have to forgive each other. We have to choose to stay connected even when it's hard. And you think the Verath have lost this? Maybe. If everything is perfect, if there's no conflict or challenge, then relationships become optional. Nice to have, but not necessary. There's no risk, no vulnerability, and maybe without that, connections become shallow. Kalira was quiet for a long time. That is a disturbing thought. But you may be correct. She looked at her family. We live together, but we do not truly need each other. Not the way humans do. Melkor came back, Daewon said. Why? He said your words reached him. But I talked to your family for 3 days. Why didn't it work for them? Kalira thought about this. Then her skin suddenly shifted to a bright, alarmed orange. Because Melkor was alone when he fell silent. He was separated from his people on a strange station. When he heard you, he was already in a state of need. But my family, they fell silent together. They are not alone. They have each other's physical presence even if they cannot communicate. So they have no motivation to return. So we need to separate them? Hana asked, appearing from the compound entrance. No, Junho said, joining them. That would be cruel. But we need to create a sense of need. A reason to communicate, to reconnect, to overcome the silence. That how? Nari asked. Daewon stood up. Kalira, can I try something? It might not work. It might even be wrong. But I have an idea. Anything, she said. Daewon went back into the compound. He approached Venya, Kalira's younger sibling. He sat closer than he had before. Then he started talking, but this time he did not share stories or philosophy. Instead, he spoke directly to Venya. Your sister is outside, he said. Kalira. She's been sitting in the garden alone and she's hurting. She's trying to be strong, but I can see she's breaking. She needs you, not because of some logical reason, but because she loves you and she's scared of losing you. He paused. I know what it's like to lose someone you love. I lost my brother, and I would give anything to have one more conversation with him, one more chance to tell him that he mattered to me, that he was necessary to my life. Daewon reached out and carefully took Venya's hand. Kalira needs you to come back, not for any grand reason, just because she's your sister and she's alone and she's scared. That's enough. That should be enough. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Venya's fingers twitched. Their eyes moved slightly, focusing on Daewon's face. When they spoke, the voice was barely a whisper. Kalira is hurting? Yes, Daewon said. Very much. Because of me? Because she loves you. Venya's skin began to shift colors slowly. That is inefficient. Love should not cause pain. But it does, Daewon said. That's what makes it real. That's what makes it matter. Understanding seemed to dawn in Venya's eyes. They looked around at their family members, all sitting in silence. Then back at Daewon. We forgot, they whispered. We forgot that connection requires risk. That love requires the possibility of loss. Yeah, Daewon said. I think maybe you did. Over the next week, Venya's return sparked something remarkable. One by one, the other family members began to emerge from their silence. It was slow and difficult. Each one needed individual attention, individual reasons to return. But they came back. Kalira spent hours with each family member, and Daewon noticed something changing in her. She was more expressive, more emotional. She cried when her mother returned. She laughed with relief when her eldest cousin spoke. She was becoming more human in some ways, or perhaps more truly herself. Word of what happened spread across Vareth Prime. Other families requested human assistance. Yunho and Nari worked with different groups, teaching Varath individuals how to reach their silent loved ones. It was not about techniques or procedures. It was about genuine connection, about expressing need and vulnerability, about showing that someone's presence mattered. But it was also slow work. There were billions of Vareth on the planet and millions had fallen silent. The human team could not reach everyone. They needed a different approach. The Vareth leadership convened a council and the human team was invited. Elder Velrim stood before hundreds of Vareth officials in a massive crystalline chamber. Daewon felt very small and out of place. We have learned something crucial, Elder Velrim announced. The silent plague is not a disease to be cured. It is a symptom of something we have lost as a civilization. We have optimized ourselves toward perfection, but in doing so, we eliminated the imperfections that make life meaningful. Murmurs ran through the council. Some Vareth looked confused. Others looked frightened. Junho stepped forward to speak. The humans have a saying, it is the cracks that let the light in. Your civilization eliminated the cracks. You created perfect systems, perfect health, perfect harmony, but you also eliminated struggle, challenge, and necessary connection. And without those things, the will to continue weakens. Are you suggesting we should introduce suffering into our society? One council member asked. That we should make ourselves less than we are? Not suffering exactly, Nari said, but challenge, growth. The need to work together, to overcome obstacles, to support each other through difficulties. Humans maintain deep bonds because we need each other. We fail, we hurt, we struggle, and we help each other through it. That creates real connection. But how do we implement this? Another council member asked. We cannot simply break our systems. That would cause chaos. Maybe you need some chaos, Hana said bluntly. Controlled chaos. Introduce elements of uncertainty. Create situations where people have to collaborate to solve problems. Build communities around shared challenges rather than shared perfection. The debate went on for hours. Some Vareth were resistant to the idea of intentionally making their lives less efficient. Others were desperate enough to try anything. Finally, Elder Velrim called for a vote. By a narrow margin, the council agreed to begin a careful cultural experiment. But there was one more thing Kalira wanted to try. She approached Daewon in the compound garden where they had talked before. I want to understand, she said, truly understand, what it is like to be human, to carry all that emotion, all that chaos. I'm not sure I can explain it any better than I have, Daewon said. Not explain. Experience. Kalira's skin shifted nervously. We have technology that can create temporary neural connections. A way to share consciousness. to experience another being's thoughts and emotions directly. I want to connect with you, Day One. To feel what you feel, is that safe? For me, possibly not. Human emotions are much more intense than what Verath typically experience. It could be overwhelming. But I need to know. I need to understand what my people have lost. Day One thought about this. It felt intimate, invasive almost. But he saw the desperation in Kalira's shifting colors. He thought about Venya, about Melkor, about all the Verath fighting their way back from silence. Okay, he said, if you think it will help. The procedure was set up in a quiet room in the compound. Kalira explained that they would both wear devices that would create a temporary bridge between their minds. It would last only a few minutes, but in that time she would experience his memories and emotions as if they were her own. They sat facing each other. Technicians placed delicate devices on their heads. Kalira looked nervous, her skin shifting through anxious colors. Then they activated the connection. Day One felt a strange sensation like his mind was expanding. And then he felt Kalira's presence, her consciousness touching his. He did not try to control what she saw. He let her experience everything. She felt his grief over Taemon's death. The crushing weight of loss, the anger at the unfairness, the guilt of surviving. She felt the slow, painful process of learning to live with that grief. The bad days when getting out of bed felt impossible. The good days when he could remember his brother with a smile instead of tears. She felt his loneliness working on Cascadia Station. His quiet pride in fixing broken things. His simple pleasure in watching Jupiter's storms. His embarrassment when he whispered that she was beautiful. She felt his fear when facing the silent plague. His doubt about whether he could help. His determination to try anyway. But she also felt the connections. His friendship with Hana, his care for the station crew, the way he found small moments of joy in daily life, the way he created meaning from meaningless tasks, created hope from hopeless situations. The connection lasted only 3 minutes, but when it ended, Kalira collapsed. Her skin went through rapid, chaotic color changes. She was shaking.
Kalira.
Day One reached for her. Are you okay? She struggled to speak. How do you bear it? All that pain, all that fear, all that uncertainty. It is overwhelming. You get used to it, Day One said. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you just learn to carry it. Kalira looked at him with new understanding in her dark eyes. You carry so much weight. Every human does. And yet you keep going. You find joy despite the pain. You love despite the risk of loss. You hope despite having no logical reason to hope? Yeah, Day One said simply. That's pretty much it. It is beautiful, Kalira whispered. Terrible and painful and chaotic, but beautiful. My people, we eliminated all of that. We thought we were becoming better, more evolved. But we were just becoming less connected, less alive. She stood slowly, her colors still shifting rapidly. I understand now. What we need to relearn is not just resilience or persistence. We need to relearn how to be vulnerable, how to need each other, how to risk pain for the sake of connection. Over the next months, change came slowly to Verath Prime. The Verath began experimenting with what they called intentional imperfection. They created community projects that required collaboration. They introduced elements of uncertainty into their perfect systems. They began teaching their children that struggle was not something to be eliminated, but something to be experienced and overcome together. It was not easy. Many Verath struggled with the concept, but slowly the rate of new silent plague cases began to drop, and those who had fallen silent began to return, drawn back by the renewed sense of connection and purpose in their communities. Humans became regular visitors to Verath worlds. Not as saviors or teachers, but as friends and partners. Cultural exchange programs started. Verath visited Earth and were shocked by the chaos and mess of human civilization. But they also saw the strength in it, the resilience, the deep bonds that formed through shared struggle. Day One eventually returned to Cascadia Station, but he was different now. He understood something about humanity that he had never fully appreciated before, that their messy, emotional, chaotic nature was not a flaw. It was a feature. It was strength. 6 months after returning, he was working in the observation deck when Kalira arrived. She had been appointed as a permanent ambassador to Cascadia Station. She had also changed. Her colors shifted more freely now. She expressed emotions more openly. She had learned to be imperfect. Thank you, she said, standing beside him at the viewport. "For everything you taught me. For everything humanity taught my people." "I didn't really do anything special," Day One said. "I just talked to Melkor, and to your family. You did much more than that. You showed us that meaning is not something to be found through logic or perfection. It is something created through connection, through struggle, through the choice to continue even when continuation is hard." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching Jupiter's eternal storms. After a while, Kalira spoke again. "My people are creating a monument on our homeworld, a memorial to honor humanity's gift to us. They asked me what the inscription should say. What did you tell them?" "I suggested your words, the ones you spoke to Melkor. I don't know if existence has meaning, but right now in this moment, me being here means something to me. Maybe that's enough." Daewon felt his eyes water slightly. "That's nice, though I'm not sure I deserve a monument. It is not about what you deserve. It is about what you gave us. Hope without justification, persistence without logic, the courage to feel pain and keep going anyway." Kalira's skin shifted to a warm gold. "That is the most human thing of all, and it may be the most important thing in the galaxy." Behind them, the station hummed with activity. Humans and Vareth worked side by side. Other species had begun to visit, curious about the small young civilization that had somehow helped save older, wiser ones from